we are able to submit the attempts. So another requirement in the assignment that's being asked here is that when we look at the quizzes, right? When we look at the quizzes in the URL in the IDE in the here, right? And we see all the quizzes. One of the things that I would like to be able to do is not necessarily render the quizzes, but not only do I want to render the title of the quiz, but I also want to render the attempts, right? The attempts for these quizzes, right? So that so I can see, that how many times did you take this quiz, or which students took this quiz, and what did each one get? Okay, so we do have an API for that, right? I believe. Let's see. So this is the quiz that we just took. I think I called it attempts. All right, there it is. So this is the API that allows us to retrieve the attempt on the quiz, right? In this case, it's quiz 2. And so one of the things I would like to be able to do is merge together for each one of the quizzes, right? So notice that we are rendering the quiz here. Here we're iterating of all the quizzes. So I'd like to show that, hey, for quiz 2, within the quiz 2, we'd like to be able to render what were all the attempts for quiz 2. Okay? So that means that as I am iterating over the quiz, as I'm iterating over each one of the quizzes, right, I like to be able to use the ID of the quiz, right, to go fetch the attempt. Notice that there's the ID for the quiz, and I can fetch the attempts for that quiz. The problem here, the challenge is that now we have, these are the quizzes that these are the quizzes that we fetched in one query, right? It's this query over here, right? You just say quizzes, you get all the quizzes. There they are. You get all the quizzes with the questions and whatnot. But what I'd like to be able to do is to see the attempts. Now, how do we bind the attempts and the quiz, right? How do we bind that? Well, we have two options. Right? We have two options. One, we could do this on the server, right? Where we know what the quizzes are, and let's populate inside of each one of the quizzes. Let's populate the attempts. We could do that, or we can do this on the client, right? So let's do it on the client, right? So what we're going to do is that we're going to iterate over all the quizzes. And as we iterate over the quizzes, we're going to go fetch the attempts for each one of the quizzes, right? So let's do that. Right, so here in the quizzes component, here's where we are fetching all the quizzes. See that? So we're fetching all the quizzes. So these quizzes here is an array. Okay, it's an array. And one of the things I like to be able to do is populate for each one of the quizzes those attempts. So we want to kind of like do a join on the front end, right? So how do we do that? So here's we bound the quizzes, but now we want to iterate over this array, something like this. I'm going to say quizzes dot for each. Wait a minute, what do we have here? This is an array, right? Why is it not letting me for each? We have a quiz. Oh, wait a minute, quizzes. Yeah, quizzes. Here's a quiz, and for now, let's see if we can do a console log quiz. right? So if we go here, right, and we do if we look at the console, we should have all the quizzes printed out in the console. There they are. Here are the quizzes, right? And we have the IDs. So let's just print the ID. Okay, here's all the IDs. So we could use these IDs to fetch all the attempts, right? We could do something like this. We could say, let's see, we could say fetch, right? We could fetch the attempts, and the attempts is what? This is quizzes. I think we have an attempt for this one, right? For this one. So quizzes. Oops, I copied wrong. We have attempts for this one. Copy. And this is the attempts. These are the attempts. So we're going to use this URL here. Right, so we're going to fetch http:// I guess I can copy it. Copy. So let's paste that in here. The only difference here is that this is a variable, right? It's the quiz ID, right? It's the quiz._ID. Okay, so that's going to go and fetch the attempts. That's a get, and we're going to parse it. The response is going to come back, and we're going to return response.json. So out here, right there, right there, it's going to return what? If I do a return, what's that returning? That's returning a promise, right? It's returning a promise. And that promise, right, we need to be able to use that promise, right, to somehow map, right, all these attempts are coming back for these quizzes. Somehow we need to iterate what's coming back from here. So what's coming back from here? What's coming back from here are a whole bunch of, as I'm iterating, it's returning a whole bunch of promises, right? So how do we accumulate all those promises? So what we're going to do is instead of for each, I'm going to do a map, right? And the map, we're going to put here all the promises, right? This is going to be, I guess we could return this. We can return this. And it's going to come back here as the promises, right? So this will be what are these? These are the attempts promises, right? Attempt promises, a whole bunch of promises, right? What can we do with those promises? Well, we would want the actual data now, right? For those promises, we would like to now kind of like register for a callback for all those promises that are waiting to come back, because this is all asynchronous, right? These are going out, all these fetches are going out, and we're not waiting for these fetches to come back, right? So I'm going to have like, for each one of the quizzes, I'm going to generate 6 different fetches, right? And they're all going to come back, and somehow I need to synchronize them coming back, right? Here I have the promises. Well, what I can do, I can use a promise.all. So a promise.all allows me to listen for, to wait for all these, to resolve, right? So I can resolve all these, right? So that when they, so if I return this, here I should actually have the actual attempts objects. And we can do a console log attempts. Let's see if that works. Now these are going to be all the attempts for all the quizzes. Okay? So let's see. Let's come here. Let's see if this explodes. Let's see. All right, there they are, right? Okay, so let's see. There were 6 quizzes. So this is going to be for the first quiz. There are no attempts. For quiz number, the second quiz, I do have an attempt. See that? There is the attempt with the quiz ID, right? With the answers, that's the attempt, right? The original questions, I have everything there. See that? And I even have the score, 50. I don't have any attempts for the third quiz. I don't have an attempts for the fourth, the fifth, or the sixth quiz. I only have attempts for the quiz number 2, this one right here. See that? They all came back. Now I need to collate these attempts and maybe put it in the quiz. I can put it inside of the quiz. I can say, I have the original quizzes here as an array, and I can say, this dot, I can iterate over this. I can say for, can I do a for each? No, I can't. So for let I 0 I less than this dot quizzes dot length I plus plus. I can say that this dot, oops, what doesn't it like? Oh, it doesn't like my spacing. Gee. And say this dot quizzes sub I dot attempts is equal to attempts sub I. So basically, I'm putting each one of the attempts where they go for the particular quiz. So once I have that, right, I can now in the user interface for the quizzes. As I am for the quizzes, where's the quiz component? Quiz component. Where's the HTML? Here. Now quizzes. There we go. In the quizzes component, as I am iterating over the quizzes and I'm making the hyperlink and blah blah blah, right? I could render how many attempts do I have? Length. Right, notice that I have attempts. See that for quiz 1, I have no attempts. Quiz 2, I have 1 attempt, but it's complaining because quizzes doesn't have attempts. So quizzes should provide an initial set of values. Also, I don't have a title. Now it's complaining. And I have a title. Okay. All right. So there's quite a bit of other things that I need to fix. But what I'd like to be able to do now is, for instance, I could iterate over each one of those attempts, right? I could say, I don't only want the length. I could actually iterate over this. I could say, I could have an embedded UL that I can do an ng4 of the attempt of the quiz dot attempts, right? And for each one, I can type what score I got. Right? I can say I'll render the attempt dot score. There we have it. See that? For quiz 2, I had an attempt and I got a 50. Right? Maybe I put a percent at the end. Okay. Does that make sense? I think the hardest part is understanding this right here. This this magic here of doing this fetch and using this promise.forAll. What this allows you to do is that it allows you to work not with just one promise, but allows you to work with an array of promises. Especially if you need to do a loop, and you have to make many multiple queries, multiple fetches, and you need to synchronize all of them, right? So that they all come back in the correct order, right? Because these fetches, remember, these are all asynchronous. There's no guarantee in what order they're going to happen. So that's what promise for all allows you to do, is to wait for them in the correct order, right, and synchronize them, and then collect all their responses in an array, right? You can which are guaranteed to be in the original order that they were sent. Okay. Anyway, that was one of the main topics today.